Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Brian of Hassens County, and I'm glad you could join me again today. Today, we're going to be continuing our actual play of the game Lineage. Just as a quick recap for those of you who might have stumbled across this for the very first time today, the game Lineage is basically it's a world building game. Or a world building tool where you are playing as the chronicler of a dynasty, charting the rise and fall of this family of monarchs as it goes through history. So, real quick, just to kind of recap what happened during our previous episodes. Our founder of our dynasty, the Qingning dynasty, was Qinberg the Broken. Qinberg the Broken went through some basically growing pains, initial sort of starting difficulties, but was able to maintain independence for their initial little kingdom, and also took the badger as their sigil, and basically set up an economic base for the kingdom centered around the exploitation of mineral wealth that existed within the kingdom. They were succeeded by their only child, Elfwin. Elfwin, who was known as the farmer, because their pretty much the only thing they were really majorly known for, was creating a great agricultural project by digging a bunch of channels and drainage ditches and things to kind of drain out the wetlands and the moorlands that were along the edges of the territory in order to greatly expand the land that was available. However, they met a very unfortunate end because of a staged assassination, basically. Members of their spouse's family basically staged a fight and ended up making it look like that the Elfwin's heir had killed him. So instead of being succeeded by the primary heir, who was also named Qinberg, they were exiled, and instead they were succeeded by their second child, Wassa. Wassa the Good was probably the greatest of all of the monarchs that we've had so far. They're responsible for the beginnings of a golden age for our monarchy. For our kingdom. They, in many ways, maintained and strengthened the power of the kingdom after the previous two monarchs, and through basically increasing the cultural influence and power that our kingdom has over the sort of cultural area around us, the various and sundry smaller kingdoms around us, even though some of the other kingdoms are probably have a greater temporal power, military power or economic power than we do. Wassa was able to make connections through religious groups and things to kind of increase the cultural influence that we have, to try to not necessarily make ourselves the hegemon of the group of kingdoms that we're be surrounded by, but at least maintain the level of power in comparison to other leading regional powers. Accidentally, we ended up essentially also becoming a colonizer. An expedition that we had been asked to send out to join a distant war against people who our faith apparently believe are heretics or infidels of some sort or another, ended up getting blown way off course, and creating a small sort of separate tributary state that still maintains a relationship with us, which we can see here being represented by the younger sibling of Wassa, led by Leofteg, the High Lord. And we are going to be continuing that family line alongside the primary family line under Wassa. However, at the very end of Wassa's reign, they made a deal with the devil, so to speak. They apparently had become ill as a result of, I don't know, some disease. We hadn't decided exactly what, a pox of some sort, which ultimately would result in their death. But they were able to extend their life by making a deal, basically exchanging the life of their firstborn grandchild for a continued life and prosperity for the kingdom. So we'll see how that goes. So this is going to be Wassa II. So if you'll just give me just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and roll on our title to see what epithet this Wassa is going to end up with. We start with a 5 and a 4, which corresponds with the wolf. Ooh, that's interesting. And then, of course, next we need to roll for the spouse. So we rolled a 2 and a 2, which means that we have been married to a distant cousin known for military prowess. Now, they are from our cultural sphere, which means that we are going to be pulling from the name of the name list that I had created of Anglo-Saxon names, since that is the theming that we're going with for our initial culture. And let's go with Oscar. Alright, so next we need to roll to see how many children Oscar and their spouse will be having today. Okay, so I rolled a 7, and then we roll one more d6 to subtract. That's a 2, so we're going to have 5 heirs. Ooh, wow. So once we have our heirs, again, we need to roll for our events. Whoopsies. I almost dropped the dice. So we need to roll 1d6 in order to determine how many we're going to get, which is 4. So let me double check. Yes, we are in a golden age. So we are going to be rolling under the golden age table. I really don't like that. Okay, so here we go. So our first event, we rolled a 3 and a 6. A foreign spy master has turned traitor and seeks sanctuary within our borders. They may hold useful information, but protecting them could also cause a diplomatic incident. All right, for our second event, I rolled a 4 and a 4. Oh, goodness. A new religious order, quickly growing in popularity, declare our monarch a living god. Supporting this idea would draw criticism from traditional religious leaders, but denouncing it would enrage this small group of dangerous radicals. Fun. This could get really interesting. All right, now for our third event, I rolled a 3 and a... Oh, that's the same event again. Let me roll again. Oh, I rolled 2 1s. Oh, this could prove interesting. So remember the deal that Wassa the Good made was that the grandchild would potentially have something happen to them. Whether they were going to be sacrificed or whatever, I don't know. This event says that a powerful noble insists that there is a long-standing agreement that the monarch's eldest child should marry theirs. This is a lie, but can we afford to deny them? So maybe there's a connection. Maybe there's a connection between this event and the promise of a sacrifice. So maybe this isn't a powerful noble. Maybe instead this is a powerful, like, god figure of some sort. All right, now we have one last event that I'm going to go ahead and roll. And this last event, I rolled 2 and a 6. 2 and a 6 says that a rare and valuable resource is discovered just beyond our borders. This area is mostly undefended. Would a conflict with our neighbors be worth the price paying? Typically, before deciding exactly how the events played out, I will roll the death event just to see if that potentially ties in with some of the events that we might have towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that page and take a roll. And I rolled 2 1s, which means I die in battle. Well, it certainly sounds like we went to war. So, Wassa the Wolf has died in battle. So, I decided that we are going to protect this spy master who shows up. They're going to be from the kingdom with this ill-defended borderland. Um, and this spy master is going to be giving us the information either about the resource or about the weaknesses that we could potentially exploit to gain it. This new religious order that declares us a god, we are going to accept them. So we're going to accept the deification that they are kind of trying to give Wassa, and that's why they are known as the wolf. Maybe there's some sort of religious implication behind the use of this animal. Or maybe the wolf might be a reference to the war that they end up instigating. I'm going to say that this noble that's referenced in the third event is the actual leader of the religious order who's kind of deifying Wassa. And that's the reason why they're making, that's the reason why we cannot, deny them. And this religious order and the deification process and everything like that seems that it's probably connected back to the deal that Wassa the First made with that powerful person who kept them alive. So this is sort of like a continuation of the deal of the devil. Now we're linked in with this family. With this order, this sort of cult that I'm using cult in the sort of classical Roman sense. This group of worshippers that of monarch deifiers, right? In addition to that, I'm going to say that that's the reason why I'm going to say our eldest is not going to end up becoming the monarch, and instead they're going to be becoming the sort of like the high priest of this essentially king worshipping group. Again, as seeing as that we did die in battle, I'm going to say that we did declare war to try to get this resource. So yeah, I'm going to say that we probably are at least initially successful in the sort of war to try to get this resource, but there is a counterattack against us, and that's when Wassa ends up being killed in battle. How exactly this is going to potentially impact our next monarch or the family tree in general, I'm not entirely sure yet at this point, but we will see. Hello everybody and welcome back. As you can see, I've definitely made some changes to our family tree. I had to make some pretty major alterations because of the change in software, but here we have our line of monarchs up to right now. We have Wassa II. I went ahead and added the next heir for the High Lord, our cousins now who rule that sort of colonial vassal kingdom that we have. So I decided to go ahead and name that person Songifu. Songifu, sorry. It's the gift of the sun, right? We have Wassa and Edwin, right? As I mentioned, we decided that the first born was going to end up getting married to the child of this high priest of this order who's sort of deified Wassa, right? And this high priest ended up marrying, not the high priest themselves, but their child married Elfric, and we decided our firstborn I decided was going to be named Elfric. And Elfric is going to end up becoming the next high priest in the next generation. So I went ahead and made them purple so that we could recognize that family tree as we continue it down. So at the moment, we're going to be following basically 3 major family lines all the way through in every generation. Not rolling events for all of them, just rolling events for the monarch themselves and potentially tying in the other characters into it. So we have our high priests, we have our 3 kids here who are not going to end up inheriting anything, and then of course we have the actual monarch themselves. We've got 4 more family members we need to kind of come up with names for. So for this one, let's say, I forgot to change the name of that there. What did we name our Oscar, right? they married Oscar. So let's say our first kid's named, that kid's named Oscar. This child is going to be named Hrothgar. This child's going to be named Leofsig. And the person who's going to become the monarch we'll name them Heriswith. There we go. Heriswith. And we'll see who they married. So, just to kind of recap a little bit of exactly what happened with Wassa II and what exactly we all decided. We succeeded Wassa I the Good after a long, relatively successful reign, although the end of it was marred by their long lingering disease. One of the first major things that happened was a spy master came to our lands from a neighboring kingdom. We decided to go ahead and accept them, and they in turn gave us important information that we were able to exploit later on weaknesses that a significant opponent had. A new religious order rose up, deifying our monarch. We decided to go ahead and accept that. And the leader created basically a personality cult around our monarch, in many ways connecting our monarch with a deity, a pre-existing deity. The leader of this religious order ended up basically insisting that due to this relationship that they have with the deity, to us, to the deity that we've been sort of associated with, that Wassa had become associated with, that they had to marry, their firstborn had to marry the firstborn of the priest. So we didn't really have any choice. We kind of accepted that, and that was part of that deal that our parent had made. Sort of like the sacrifice that we had to make. Which is going to add instability. So one thing that I have not done yet is I'm going to go ahead and jump up here, and I'm going to say that all of the stuff that's been going on, we're actually going to add 2 more to our instability. So our instability has now gone up to 3. Partly because we're introducing this cult and making major shifts to the religious landscape, and then also because this new religious order, this high priest, is undermining our authority pretty significantly. Excuse me. So yeah, our eldest has kind of been taken as their protege, and now the eldest line of our family is actually not going to be the monarchs, but instead is going to be the high priests. So yes, that's going to be a separate family line that we're going to track moving on into the future, and that could potentially cause significant conflict. There was a valuable resource that was recently discovered along some ill-defended borderland that, again, our spy master from the very beginning of all of this had given us information about, so we decided to go ahead and exploit that and declare war. But Wassa II, as the dice told us, died in battle. So we decided that we were initially successful, but in the counterstroke that the opposing kingdom did against us, Wassa II ended up dying in combat. Well, thank you all for joining me today. Everything is kind of set up for next time, so our next monarch is going to be Heriswith. We will decide, obviously, on what their nickname, their epithet is going to end up being during our next roll. Oh, one person that we did forget to name is the next generation's High Lord, which we'll name them Oswin. There we go. Yes, that sounds fine to me. So yes, as I was saying, everything seems to be all set up for next time. Hopefully things will go a little bit smoother. You didn't get to see it, but there were some things going on in the background that made this not go quite so smoothly today. What with this switch and program and all, but we'll see how that goes. Thank you all for joining me today. If you would like to take a look at other videos that we have played, obviously you can take a look at all the different videos in either the playlists that we're going to be popping up here in a couple minutes or in a couple moments over top of my face, I'm sure. Links to Lineage, this new version of the Lineage game, my link tree with various and sundry links to different resources of different games and resources that I've created, the Hessen County blog, and other things like the newsletter can be found in the doobly-doo down below. And thank you very much all for joining me. If you'd like to support the channel in any sort of monetary way, and other than obviously buying games, I do have a coffee, so feel free to check that out if you wish. Thank you all very much for joining me, and do have a good zone.